Hello everyone and welcome to round 6 of the 2022 Formula 1 season here in Hungary for the Hungarian Grand Prix. This is our first time visiting the Hungarian Grand Prix circuit in the alternative Apex series after it came off the calendar for 2021. It of course replaced Portugal for the 2022 season, and the 14-turn circuit should hopefully bring some exciting action to this stage of the calendar and mark the first race of the second half of the season. The cars are on the grid, and let's have a look at how they will line up. On the front row, it is the Red Bull drivers of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, the Red Bull team looking like it's finally starting to find some form in this season. On the second row, it is Valtteri Bottas in third, ahead of Fernando Alonso. Then it is Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris, with Esteban Ocon and Mick Schumacher lining up behind them. It is then Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo who round out the top 10, ahead of Charles Leclerc and Antonio Giovinazzi. It is then Pierre Gasly and Carlos Sainz in 13th and 14th, ahead of Lance Stroll and Robert Schwartzman. Then in the final 6 spaces it is George Russell, Nikita Mazepin, Guan Yu Zhou, Yuki Tsunoda, Pato O'Ward and Nicholas Latifi. A few cars at the back of the grid there, with some grid penalties. But now it's time to go down to the track for today's race. The cars are on the grid, the lights are coming on, and we are racing in Hungary. Who can get a good start initially off the line? Let's wait and see. It looks like Max Verstappen's got a great launch. Immediately cover off the inside line as they make their way into turn 1. Verstappen leads their way into turn 1. Bottas looking to the outside of Sergio Perez. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to make anything work there on the outside. Alonso slotting into 4th. Lewis Hamilton trying to challenge the Spaniard. Into turn 2 they go now. Who's going to come out of here on top? It is Max Verstappen though. That still comfortably leads the field. And looks like most people getting single file now as they make their way towards the tricky part of the lap. Not really going to see many overtakes through this part in Sector 2 because of just how constant the corners are and no real chances for overtakes. But speaking of overtakes, on lap 3 of the race, O'Ward sending it on Nikita Mazepin. Pato O'Ward, of course, started at the back of the grid due to a grid penalty, but he's now trying to cut his way up the field in a field that is quite close this year. So, especially around a circuit like Hungary, it's going to be very tough to overtake. But so far so good, getting himself up into 17th place. On lap 6 of the race, Max Verstappen came into the pit lane. Looks like he is committing to his 2-stop strategy, as he will go to the medium compound of tyres in this pit stop. Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas will head out front in this Grand Prix. Verstappen puts on the medium tyres. Now back to Pato O'Ward, giving us a show out here in Hungary as he makes a move for 14th place, now getting ahead of Lance Stroll. And Sergio Perez comes into the pits on lap 7, a lap later than his teammate, but unlike his teammate, won't go to the medium tyres. Instead, he'll go to the hard compound tyres. Valtteri Bottas will come in another lap later, another driver trying to do this one stop from softs to hards. It's not going to be an easy strategy, it's going to be quite a tough one, to be honest, but they're going to give it a go. Meanwhile, it looks like Yuki Tsunoda with an engine failure. Oh, he's been hit by Schumacher. Schumacher and Gasly have both gone into the back of the retiring Yuki Tsunoda there. Engine failure for Tsunoda, and it's caused carnage in the mid-pack. Daniel Ricciardo out front, he'll come to the pits and get a free pit stop thanks to that safety car. Giovinazzi and Sainz, the 2 cars behind him. Now let's see, will everyone pit under the safety car again? Verstappen, this may go badly for him now. He won't have the chance to make that the 2-stop work, perhaps as well as he originally planned. A few drivers stayed out here under that safety car. They are Carlos Sainz, Robert Schwartzman and Lance Stroll, who have all stayed out behind the safety car, so they'll probably have to pit in a few laps' time just after the restart has happened. Verstappen in 4th, just ahead of Sergio Perez in 5th. The Red Bulls, whilst they're not quite up front anymore, they're still very much net leaders in this Grand Prix, as Carlos Sainz prepares to take us back to green flag racing here on lap 15 of the race. 21 laps left in this Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz leads them down towards turn 1. Robert Schwartzman close behind, but doesn't look like he's planning to make any overtakes anytime soon, as it looks like the entire field is staying pretty much single file at the moment. Coming out of turn 1 now, Valtteri Bottas in 6th, might want to try and make a move here on the Red Bulls, but at the moment sitting behind, as that's Giovinazzi in 8th, driver having a very strong season, but he's about to get overtaken here by Pato O'Ward, Mr. Overtaker today. He's going to go around the outside of turn 2. Can he pull this one off inside of turn 3? What a move there from Pato O'Ward as he gets himself up into 8th position, trying to take a charge up the field in today's Grand Prix. Now, just on the end of that lap, Carlos Sainz will come into the pits here. Those that stayed out, the top 3, all come in for a slightly later pit stop. Bit confusing that they've stayed out behind the safety car to pit just as it comes in, but nonetheless they're in now, and that leads Verstappen out on the circuit in the race lead now, but he will have to pit at some point in this race because there is no way he takes those medium tyres to the end of this race, hence why you see him pulling a bit of a lead at the moment. And on lap 20 of this Grand Prix, Max Verstappen will come into the pit lane. Sergio Perez will inherit the race lead now because of that. Valtteri Bottas into second, Daniel Ricciardo up into third. He's having a strong Grand Prix as Pato O'Ward, after starting 21st, is now up into 4th position here. Verstappen will come out of the pit in 11th place behind George Russell, who is currently in the points at the moment for Williams, and legitimately so, because he's on those hards and he is going to the end. So George Russell having a great Grand Prix today, but heartbreak's about to come as Max Verstappen passes George Russell for that P10 position, and George Russell is knocked out of the points here. And it's a shame for the Williams team, so close to points last time out when they got P12, and it's like they may have to settle for a P11 finish today. Verstappen's going to continue his charge up the order now on lap 23 of this race, going to pass Antonio Giovinazzi. The medium tyres are working well at the moment, whilst they may not be outright as quick over the race distance as the hard tyres. Verstappen is not having too many troubles getting his way back up the order here to at least recover some points from today's Grand Prix. And just a couple laps later, he's going to go for the move on Lando Norris. This will be for 8th position. Norris going to fight this one hard. That McLaren is a quick car, but just doesn't look like it has the pace today as Max Verstappen continues his charge up into 8th position. But big gap ahead and those guys in a group. This could well be the end of Verstappen's charge, and it is. Sergio Perez will come around the final corner of today's Grand Prix to take the win in Hungary ahead of Valtteri Bottas and Daniel Ricciardo. Chevrolet get their best finish in Formula 1 of P4 with Lewis Hamilton, the championship leader, in P5, continuing his consistent string of good finishes. Fernando Alonso in P6, not a bad race for him, but after starting P4, maybe he had his eyes on the podium. Sebastian Vettel for Ferrari gets another good result in P7. Verstappen finishes his charge in 8th place. But it's Red Bull's day today. Red Bull finally starting to find some form in this year. But unlike last year, where it was very much Verstappen who was leading the Red Bull charge, this year it's Perez who seems to be doing very well at the moment as he takes the win here in Hungary, nailing the strategic choice, making his tyres last that little bit longer in the early stint, allowing him to do the one-stop. And, well, Sergio Perez and tyre saving, name a better combo. But that is today's Grand Prix. The podium drivers, of course, Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas, with Daniel Ricciardo getting a nice 3rd place there for the McLaren team after pitting under that safety car. Very good timing for the Aussie. Pato O'Ward, that charge back up to 4th. I don't think I saw that one coming myself, but it is Perez, the Mexican, who takes the win in round 6 of the season. Despite not being on the podium, Lewis Hamilton will still get 10 points at P5, which in theory should keep him in control of this World Championship. And let's have a look at the official results here now. So, of course, it is Sergio Perez who takes the win ahead of Valtteri Bottas and Daniel Ricciardo. Pato O'Ward gets Chevrolet's best finish in Formula 1 in P4 with Lewis Hamilton in 5th, Alonso in 6th, Sebastian Vettel for Ferrari in 7th, Max Verstappen, reigning champion, continuing to struggle this year, only gets 8th, ahead of Lando Norris in 9th, and Antonio Giovinazzi will round out the points in 10th. George Russell painfully close to points, only getting P11. Great drive by Nikita Mazepin, who gets 12th in this Grand Prix, so that's an impressive drive for the Russian driver. But still, no points for both Williams and Haas this season, so still, just one more position and they would have been in the points, but for now it is still nil point for the two backmarker teams. Now, moving on to the drivers' standings, Lewis Hamilton has a 44-point championship lead. A blessed lead, if I may say so myself. Lando Norris sits 2nd, having a strong season, but a poor race today has not exactly allowed him to reel in Lewis Hamilton much at all. Sergio Perez is the guy on a mission at the moment, up into 3rd in the championship now. And with the way things look at the moment, Hamilton is in control of the championship, and it really seems to be a battle for 2nd in this season's championship. It is Antonio Giovinazzi still hanging in 4th there in what is a surprisingly brilliant season by the Italian driver. Pierre Gasly's had a strong couple of races, not quite as good today, of course, crashing out into the back of Schumacher, who in turn crashed into the back of Yuki Tsunoda. But Pierre Gasly still in 5th there, so he's very much in that fight for 2nd. Max Verstappen in 6th still. It's hard to believe after such a great season. He won 4 races last season, and he's just really not been there this season, which is a shame to see. But he's still top 6, given the car he's had at some of the races this year. He can't be too disappointed with that. It is then Mick Schumacher in 7th, having a brilliant first season with Alfa Romeo, really proving that put him in a competitive car and he will deliver. Daniel Ricciardo in 8th, not having the season as good as his teammate, but today he had a very strong race, showing he definitely still has it there. Pato O'Ward in 9th, Chevrolet look like they have a pretty solid midfield car this season. They just have a few issues here and there with reliability, which is costing them big time because, I mean, Carlos Sainz has had countless grid penalties and countless engine failures. Pato O'Ward, I believe they sort of seem to have seen his engine failures coming and has managed to avoid them a bit better than Carlos Sainz. But still, they've got one car in the top 10, so they can't be too disappointed. Sebastian Vettel, 10th in the championship. It's a decent return for Ferrari, beating his teammate Charles Leclerc at the moment, so solid season for him. Valtteri Bottas, whilst his teammate's dominating the championship, down in 11th. He's not making a good statement in terms of being signed on again for next season, but that was the driver's standings. Now on to the constructor standings. It is Mercedes who quite obviously lead the way at the moment. McLaren a bit closer in this than they are in the drivers, of course, mostly due to Bottas' struggles this season. But a 35-point lead for Mercedes, still a very strong lead. Red Bull in third. Maybe they can start to put it in a challenge. They looked very quick in Hungary, of course, getting a 1-2 in the grid. And if strategy had played a bit better into their hands, they could have got a 1-2 in the race. But nonetheless, P3 in the standings at the moment. Aston Martin still starting to tumble down the order. But as we saw at the start of the season, they clearly, when things go their way, they can get a great result. So don't rule them out in that top 3 fight just yet. AlphaTauri, another team that can really benefit from a good bit of luck. They're in 5th at the moment, doing decently. Just ahead of Ferrari by 5 points at the moment in the battle for the best of the rest. Ferrari just ahead of Alfa Romeo at the moment by only 10 points. So badly the Italian teams there. AlphaTauri currently leads that group of cars, but those 3 teams still very close, so who knows will end up on top in that group. Chevrolet made their way up into 8th as Alpine dropped back down to 9th, where of course they finished last season. It's just been such a mix-up this season, it's hard to sort of predict who's going to end up finishing where. For all we know, Alpine could end up being best of the rest. It's that close, it really could go anyone's way. But as I said, Williams and Haas still on 0 points, but they've been getting pretty close recently, so maybe they can catch up in that little battle, but they're still 36 points off the cars ahead of them, so I don't think they're going to be catching up and getting involved in any battles, but maybe they can get some points this season. But that was round 6 of the 2022 Formula 1 season here in the Alternative Apex series. Another pretty exciting race today. Bit of drama here and there, slightly shorter episode than usual. I hope you guys don't mind that one too much. But I think it was action-packed and had a lot of action in it, so still a brilliant race in the Alternative Apex series, and I think Hungary's made a statement on the calendar. Who knows if it'll stay for next year? I'll have to wait until the preview for season 2023 for that. But for now, Hungary, I think they've made a decent stake to their claim on the calendar. Next up, it is Spa for the Belgian Grand Prix. That one was a pretty interesting race last season. Without the late safety car, we could have seen Ricciardo versus Verstappen go very much down to the wire. But in the end, the sort of safety car ended it early. Bit of a shame in terms of that one. But Spa last season proved that it can produce a great race if there's no sort of other circumstances to get involved. So I look forward to seeing if Spa can be as good of a race as it was last season, because the battles you can have there, especially into Lake Combe chicane, up Eau Rouge, into the Lake Combe chicane, brilliant battling opportunities. So I very much look forward to seeing the cars around there. But given how mixed up this season has been, who knows who's going to be on top in Spa? The only way to find out is to join us next time. So I'll see you there.